IC Open the Books is a coalition of staff, faculty, students, and community members, and just people who are active in general who want to get shared governance and transparency from the IC administration and stop the layoffs. I had reached out to one of my professors who I really loved. Her class just stayed with me, and I reached out and I wanted to get involved in some way after the layoffs were announced. And I didn't know how, so I just kind of emailed her and was like, what do I do? And she put me in contact with some other students who were also really concerned, and we started talking and we decided to form Open the Books.
I've been friends with folks who have been part of Students for Labor Action for several years, since my first year here, which is sort of the group that Open the Books formed out of, is Students for Labor Action. And then in November, they were sort of rallying around this termination of 130 faculty lines. What we thought at the time was going to be 130 faculty lines. So I started going to their meetings. I went to their rally in November that happened outside the main entrance of the school, and then I just started working and organizing with them after that.
So the APP is the Academic Prioritization Program, and essentially it is the way they are consolidating and downsizing the faculty currently at IC.
And the school is pursuing these cuts in order to right-size the college to a 12-to-1 student ratio, or student-to-faculty ratio, so 12 students per every 1 faculty, as opposed to 9-to-1 figures they've had in the past. So what this means is that so many people's careers are being eliminated. 26 departments or programs are being eliminated within the school. And the ability for Ithaca College to say it's a comprehensive liberal arts institution with faculty who have time to dedicate to their students is something that's probably not going to be true in a couple years.
What I'm really concerned about, it seemed to be pushed through and sort of a done deal. Because even after the shape of the college document went out, feedback was solicited from all the departments and schools. And our department did put forth a number of things that they really felt they couldn't do without. And as far as I could tell, it was very detailed and very long, but as far as I could tell, no changes took place. So I'm thinking that the departments and the schools really didn't have a chance to affect what had already been decided. That was the impression I got.
The issue comes down to the way in which it's being carried out. It's not the plan itself that people have such a problem with. Obviously, we are gutted by the amount of faculty cuts and the program cuts that are happening, but it's more so the way in which it's being done, without transparency, without engaging the community, without honoring the people who have served here for 35 years. That's unbelievable.
I teach acting in the Department of Theater Arts. I've been teaching there for 33 years. I began in 1988.
My name is Faye Dreamock, and I teach in the Environmental Studies and Sciences Department. And I actually teach environmental humanities, environmental writing, and environmental justice. And I've been here for 7 years.
I remain mostly just stunned that I'm not going to be teaching anymore. I've been teaching in higher ed since 2000. I'm teaching my own classes in higher ed since 2010. It's the job that I've held the longest in my life.
IC has created multiple positions. One of them was the adjunct, the part-timers, and one of them was the contingent faculty, which were basically one-year hires locally. And the adjuncts and contingents formed the basis of the union. N-10s are national hires, national search hires. When you are brought in for campus visits, you are hired in the same way as tenure-track faculty are hired.
Because of the exploitative nature of the way that I'm hired and so many of my colleagues are hired, I got involved with union work so that we could assert our rights as workers. So as part of that work, I became more involved with, the governance of IC. I sat on faculty council partly because of that work, and just became a lot more involved with how Ithaca College runs. And so it's been a really big part of my life, and I've given a lot of energy to trying to make it a better place for everybody.
Our main goal is really, financial transparency, shared governance, and getting students' voices represented within the APP process. One of the biggest points of the book that describes how to do the APP is that you need the college community on your side. You need trust within the community. There is not that. And students want to be represented, but they're not. The problem is the admin has been saying, we listen to students, but it's all lip service ultimately. I mean, you can listen to students and not do anything about it. Listening doesn't get us anywhere. We want action and we want representation.
Being a good leader is being able to respond to the feedback of your constituents and understand that, okay, if people are wanting to know why we're making this decision, maybe we need to come out publicly and really explain it.
At the end of the day, is student input meant to be included in the final recommendation for the APP? Regardless of whether it's heard, regardless of how it's collected, is student input, us being stakeholders in this university with the tuition that we pay and the choice that we made to come to Ithaca College, is student input and alumni input meant to be included in the final decision for the APP? And will it be included going forward when inevitably more faculty cuts come down the line, as we pursue this quote unquote right sizing for our institution?
There was no role for student input or alumni input in the review process as clearly articulated in section 4.9.8 of faculty legislation.
The administration has responded to this request, this demand for financial transparency, several times by saying, hey, you can look at our tax forms, you can come to our financial meetings where we explain the budget of the college and outline where specific funding is going. But us at the coalition and a lot of other people at the school are realizing that being able to access tax forms that are almost a year and a half delayed from when they're filed to when they're publicly made available, being given honestly not much financial advice about what's allocated to which costs at the college, and for instance how much of an endowment we have, what in the endowment can be used for what services, and what our current withdrawal annually from the endowment is. First, we don't understand any of those financial issues, and clarity around what exactly those numbers are in a way that's comprehensive to the people who are impacted by those finances first aren't clear. The second thing is that even if the administration was to open the books for us, show us everything, they would still be able to find a way, and they have, to justify austerity cuts, elimination of faculty lines, and a shrinking of the size of the school without any real justification. They will always be able to find a way to say, here are finances for this, and for some reason this justifies making this decision for the well-being, quote unquote, of the school at large. So when you hear open the books, it's twofold. It's about making those finances publicly available and making everything clear, because we know a lot of decisions happen behind closed doors.
Transparency is how we earn the trust and respect of our student community. Being transparent is hard and it's messy, but sometimes we face the reality of the situation and share the reality that with our community, because we deserve to know what's going on at our college.
How can we actually have a voice, or how can we actually have any type of representation if we're not making the decisions ourselves. It's like, where is this money going? That is the ultimate question. Where is this money going?
I have a student right now who's exploratory, and she assumed she'd be able to take acting 2 because she knows that acting 1 is a prerequisite for acting 2. And she said she couldn't find it listed, and I said, that's because it's not going to be offered anymore. And she was really, really discouraged by that. She had lots of plans for classes she wanted to take, and she thought, she was worried that she wouldn't be able to take the classes that she had in mind, and she was thinking about finding another school. And I think that's going to be happening as students start to realize that they can't have what they think they're going to get.
What we have to realize is that as Student Governance Council, we're senators. We should have the position of power to represent the student body to the best of our ability. But we should also be taken seriously. There's this conflict and this barrier between the Student Governance Council, the APP process, the administration, senior leadership team, which is basically that we have no say. We actually passed 2 bills. One that was like financial transparency, and the no confidence bill, which I was helped co-writing with 2 other senators. We passed those bills before the APP process, and they still haven't responded to those. The only response that we've gotten to those bills is basically their final decision. And it's like really, really frightening to know that as a senator, you don't really have a position of power to actually make change for your community and make change for the student body around you, especially for the BIPOC community. It's a sense of urgency that a lot of students need to be more aware of. Since there's already a lack of diversity, there's already going to be more lack of diversity with the APP process. Since we already had a limited such amount of faculty members in departments that were not BIPOC, the BIPOC ones that are actually here are suffering. Just shows the lack of diversity, but it also just shows there's no diversity at Ithaca College.
I was interviewed by IC and I was hired. I was a diversity hire, and I was brought into campus for a 2-day campus visit from a national search, and they hired me and they paid my expenses, etc. And so I came here to teach.
It's important for us to have a platform to be able to really call out the administration of what they're lacking on and to be able to work towards something. It's not that we're just criticizing them all the time. We actually have solutions. We actually have some goals, plans to have a shared governance where we can actually work with the administration and to figure out a way where we do not have to go through this again. That is our biggest concern, is going through something like this again. We should have been prepared for this. We should have been ready for this. I know we understand it was a pandemic. Who could really understood? But that doesn't mean just because something happens, doesn't mean there's no other solutions. There's no one solution to anything you do.
As all schools right now are suffering from the problems of COVID, absolutely. And all schools have overinvested and have the issues of enrollment, absolutely. Does that mean we have to handle it this way? No, I don't think so. There are other schools that have decided as a community. We have been told that, of course, we're doing shared governance. Well, shared governance seems to suddenly mean we're telling you what it is so you can put a check mark by it. That's not shared governance. Shared governance is having the discussions, doing the due diligence, talking to everyone, and trying to figure out how we do this as a community. This is in the middle of a pandemic. The people that are being let go are walking out with no health insurance. They're walking out in Ithaca, where it's expensive to live and expensive to rent. They're suddenly being told go away or disappear or find something else. That's not what we do in a pandemic. That's not what we do in the middle of a crisis. We suddenly throw people in the trash? No. And for the interns, we've been here. Some of the people have been here for 15, 20 years, embedded in their departments and doing good work. We're going to toss them in the trash?
You know, seeing their approach to the pandemic has been disheartening, to say the very least. You know, I've been in many meetings where, especially like when this was starting to happen and faculty were, you know, realizing that this was going to affect the school a lot. I've been in many meetings, faculty meetings and all staff meetings, where faculty have proposed equitable ways to deal with the crisis. The kinds of things that we see at Rutgers, that Rutgers is doing, at Hampshire College in Western Mass that they're doing. So like I was in meetings where faculty said, like, let's make a salary cap. How about that idea? You know, like, what about a salary cap of $150,000? Nobody at the school makes more than that during this crisis, and that saves money. And we could combine that with things like faculty, even voluntarily going on taking furloughs or taking unpaid leave for a year and giving their job to like the person down the hall who needs that. And in those meetings, the provost, she would not even discuss it, and she acted almost like it was offensive that we would bring it up, which I don't know why that would be offensive to talk about options. And these were tenured faculty who were like volunteering these ideas, and they were saying like, let's have a discussion about all of the ways that we could handle this. And she was like, we will not discuss that.
This struggle around labor rights at higher educational institutions, like, I say it's broader than Ithaca because it's happening in a lot of other places. Otterbein is having similar conversations. Moorhead is having similar conversations. Hampshire College had similar conversations years ago, and the students stood up and told the administration, no, this is fucked up. Like, you are not going to do this to our faculty and staff and disregard their livelihoods for the purpose of you making a profit. Other colleges in the Northeast and in the US are watching what's happening here. They're keeping a very close eye on what's happening at Ithaca College and the decision that these administrators are making. Like, people are watching, people are paying attention, and they're going to take note of what the final outcome is here. And we should care about that.
The reality is that professors who are older, who are more experienced and have been in this field for a long time, it's going to be extremely difficult and maybe near impossible for these people to secure another job like they have at Ithaca College.
I will not be in academia anymore because I will be staying in Ithaca. I have deep roots in Ithaca, so that will not be happening.
So teaching is kind of off the books. It's just off the books. If I didn't have friends in Wisconsin that I could stay with for a while I get back on my feet, I'd be homeless.
I'm unlikely to be able to find another job in academia after being fired here. Pretty much anybody in my status of part-time who's been fired is going to be unable to find another job in academia. So we're going to look, but it's very unlikely that we'll get one. And it's hard in academia, like when you don't get one right away, when there's gaps. In academia, gaps are in some ways harder than in some other fields to come back from, because you need to be like continually doing research, and in order to do research you need to have support with the institution. This does end the careers of some folks, and I very well might be one of them.
I found that I love teaching, and it's a big part of who I am. I especially have loved being part of the Dillingham family. The Theater Arts Department is very much a community. And that is something I've always striven to create in my classes, a community of artists, a safe place where we can learn and grow and develop and learn from each other. Nothing. There really hasn't been any help in terms of transitioning at all, except from the union of the contingent faculty. I did receive an email saying that you may or may not be qualified for unemployment insurance, certain conditions need to be met, that sort of thing, but I haven't heard anything from the administration, and it really feels like I've just been thrown away. I mean, that's how it feels.
Oh my God, no. I've called the Career Services office and they're like, no, we're only for undergrads. And no, there's no help whatsoever. No.
It feels shitty for it to be happening here at IC, a school that's concerned about diversity and inclusion issues, that's concerned about class issues, for them to be throwing us in the trash right now. No.
Jonathan Peters, 9 years. Rachel Formahult, 9 years. Jennifer Herzog, 11 years. I could go on. This list is going to keep growing as well. And the SLT, they want us to simply believe that this is a positive change for our institution,
and also a change that's the only option. We don't believe that. We believe that through collective governance, through shared governance, through transparency, we can solve this as a community.
You won't be forgotten.
You won't be forgotten.
Because we love you.
We love you.